Hey, I'm excited to be here. If we haven't met, my name's Mike, and was part of Mountain View Fellowship for about 11 years of our 12-year journey. And now I'm one of the teaching pastors down at Center Point Church in Orem. And Pastor Shane asked if I'd be willing to come and teach while he's in Honduras. And so you'll hear a little update from them at the end of the service. But I'm excited to be here. And I was able to pick what I wanted to talk about today. I want to talk about something that God's been kind of getting my attention with a lot over the last few years. In your notes, there's going to be a whole lot of pronouns like I instead of you. And that's because you are sitting in on a counseling session for myself, and I'm talking to me, and then you can just take away with it whatever you want, but this is for me, okay? This song popped out in my head, and I thought, what a great way to help ruin a song and make you always remember this message when you hear this song. Look at the lyrics for this chorus. I'm in a hurry to get things done. Oh, I rush and rush until life's no fun. All I got to do is live and die, but I'm in a hurry, and I don't know why. Please pray with me. Father, I pray you would open up our eyes to see what you're going to show us today, open up our ears to hear it, open up our hearts to receive it. And I pray we put our hands and feet in action to it. Lord, I thank you for the opportunity to be back at my home church to teach. Father, I lift up our Honduras team right now as they're on their way to baptize some believers down in Nueva Florida, Honduras, and we just pray that you would keep them safe and do something miraculous while they're down there. Lord, we love you, we trust you, we ask this in your name, amen. So if you drive a car that is not a relic, when you drive it after a certain while, your dash has these things that'll help you understand what's going on with your car in case you can't see it yourself. You know, my wife's car, if her tire pressure's 1 PSI low, there's a light. Anybody who have that car? It doesn't matter what you do, the light's on. Well, there's one light that cars have had for a really long time. It's a check engine light. I was going to put a picture up there, and I realized that I might give some of you panic attacks just by seeing the light. Like, just visualizing it, you start to panic a little bit. So I'm not going to put it up there. But when you have a check engine light on your car, it means you're not broken down yet. But if you don't address whatever caused this light to go on, you have a breakdown coming in the future. Now, you can either choose to address it, or you can put a sticker over it. Right? And then one day you go, I have no idea. It just stopped running. And you take it to the mechanic, and he peels the sticker off and says, how long has this light been on? Well, see, God has a way of getting our attention when things in our life are not the way they should be. He has a way of saying, hey, are you paying attention? You're not breaking down yet. But if you don't address this, you might have a breakdown coming in the future. And for me, the pace of our culture was a way that God has been getting my attention. Because I am a type 1 person. I'm a task-oriented. Anybody else out there? Just me. Excellent. Okay. I'm a get-her-done kind of person. And the get-her-done personality has leaked into my relationship with God, my relationship with my family, my relationship with my friends. And I got to a point where when people would say, Mike, how you doing? I go, good, busy, but good. Anybody else, is that your token answer? Yeah, that's just what you say. You just say busy. To the point where sometimes I go busy, actually I'm not busy today. Why did I just say I was busy? Because I always say I'm busy. And what people around me were hearing is they were hearing, oh, Mike, you have a lot going on, so you don't have time for me. And God got my attention when people started walking up to me and saying, Mike, I know you're busy, but can you? And they would actually just pre-assume, like, hey, we know that you're busy, but we need to talk about this. And I was like, no, I'm not busy. Why do you think I'm busy? And they said, well, because you always say you're busy. And God got my attention that I was living at a pace that was unhealthy. And my check engine light, for a better term, had been going off for a while, and I had trying to find ways to cover it up so that I could stay productive. And God's been really kind of getting my attention and saying, Mike, this is not going to change. Our culture is not going to change. The pace of the world is not going to change. You have to address this or you're going to crash. And so this morning, if you are one of those that you just have perfect peace and the rhythm of your life is just so amazing, go ahead and put your head down. Like, I'll let you know when the message is over. Come back next week for something that applies to you. But if you're more like me, where you just feel like you're always being demanded, something's always demanding of you. And if you're 1 minute late to something, or if something takes a minute longer than it's supposed to, you know somebody's late. Or maybe in your finances, you realize that you are stretched all the way to the limit, and if one thing goes wrong, you're in trouble. Then listen up, because God might be getting your attention the same way He's been getting my attention. And there's two things, there's two problems and two solutions that God has been showing me that I'm going to share with you this morning. The first problem is this: busyness has become an idol and a badge of honor in our culture. Busyness has become an idol, and here's what I mean by it being an idol. Most people, and when I say most people, I mean me, we find our value by what we accomplish. Anybody out there? And when we don't actively accomplish things, we see our worth going down. When we aren't constantly being productive, we feel like the value of ourselves as human beings starts to go away. That's idolatry. The second thing is it's a badge of honor. Badge of honor means we prove how much we care about things by how stressed out we get about them. I learned this one in the United States Navy. They only operate on that. So like, if I'm not stressed out, it means I don't care and I'm not trying. And in our culture, it's a badge of honor. So you say, Mike, how much do you care about this company? And I say, I care about this company, blood pressure medicine. That's how much I care about this company. I care about this company, sleeping pills. I can't sleep at night. I care about this company, stomach ulcer. That's how much I care about you guys. It's a badge of honor. If we're not stressed, then we don't care. That's what it means. And we have to redefine the pace of life, or else we fall into that trap. In fact, I would go as far as saying that if we're not busy, it's almost like we're lazy. Anybody ever felt like if you're not busy all the time, you must be lazy? And we kind of have to attack this problem right here. I love what Craig Rochelle, pastor in Oklahoma, he says, if Satan cannot make us really, really bad, he'll make us really, really busy. Because he knows that if he can't get us to believe all the wrong things, if he can just keep us busy, if he can keep us preoccupied and distracted at all times, we can't hear from what God's doing. And I want to show this to you through a passage in Mark's gospel, Mark chapter 1. So if you have your Bibles, this is the part where you actually open them up. And if you don't have a Bible or if you don't want to turn, I'm going to put it on the Air Bible behind me. But I encourage you, if you have a Bible, like your own Bible, open up to this. If you want to read it on a page and you don't have a Bible, there's Bibles you can use all around you. But while you're turning there, it's Mark chapter 1, second book of the New Testament. Let me give you a little background. So Jesus has just started his ministry. We're talking days, maybe a week. He came out of the wilderness. He picked 4 guys, Simon, Peter, Andrew, James, and John. And he takes these guys and he goes into the synagogue, which is like the Jewish church. And he starts teaching with authority. Well, then these demon-possessed people start talking to Jesus, and everybody kind of goes, just ignore the demon-possessed guy. And Jesus says, no, demons, get out of here. And everyone went, what? He can cast demons out? That's crazy. Has anybody ever seen a demon get cast out? Okay, it's rare. So they were amazed. Well, Jesus continues teaching, and then it picks up in Mark chapter 1, verse 29. As soon as they left the synagogue, they went with James and John to the home of Simon and Andrew. Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they immediately told Jesus about her. So he went to her, took her by the hand, and helped her up. The fever left her, and she began to wait on them. Okay, pause right there. So imagine this guy's casting demons out of people, which is a pretty big deal, significant. Then he goes to Simon's house, and Simon's mother-in-law has a fever. Jesus raises her up, kicks the fever out. Well, imagine the people standing there are going, okay, so this dude teaches with authority. He can kick demons out, and even sickness obeys him, like it just leaves. So I imagine there's like a little boy like sitting at the window at Simon's house, and he goes, "Oh, did he just heal that lady?" And so he runs out into the streets, and he tells everybody. So continue with me, verse 32. That evening after sunset, the people brought to Jesus all the sick and all the demon-possessed. The whole town gathered at the door, and Jesus healed many with various diseases. He also drove out many demons, but he would not let the demons speak because they knew who he was. Okay, pause again. So they're in this town of Capernaum, and everybody is now coming to this house where Simon lives. And they're coming because they just found out that this guy not only teaches with authority, not only can he cast out demons, but he's healing people. So they run, I just imagine they run door to door and they say, "Do you know anybody who has diseases? Do you know anybody who's demon-possessed? Do you know anybody who's sick? You got to take him to Simon's house." So it says the whole town gathered at his door. Imagine this party, okay? And I picture Jesus' 4 disciples kind of standing at the door, kind of going, "Okay, hold it right there. What do you got? We got another demon-possessed coming in. All right, this way. What do you got right here? Leprosy? All right, hang on one sec. We got leprosy." So they do this all night. All night, Jesus is healing and casting out demons. Now imagine these 4 fishermen who like a week ago were fishers. They were just fishing. That's it. And now they're like with Jesus. And not only is he teaching, but he's casting out demons and he's healing people. This is huge. Okay? So I love what it says next. It says that Jesus started the Capernaum Center of Healing and Demon Kicker-Outers, and he stayed there the rest of his life. The end. Is that what happens? No. Keep reading with me. Look at this. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon, Peter, and his companions went to look for him. And when they found him, they said, "Everyone is looking for you." Pause again. So Simon, Peter, they turn around at some point. They're in the middle of healing. It's been happening all night. There's a crowd of people. Some of them have been healed and probably just watching. They're like, "Hey, he healed me. I'm here for the party." But there's still people there waiting. Simon Peter turns around and Jesus is gone. Jesus is gone. James, Jesus is gone. James, distract him. Simon Peter runs out, starts searching for Jesus. I don't know if he looked for 10 minutes or if he looked for an hour, but he's starting to look for Jesus. And when he sees Jesus, imagine him, he's panting. "Jesus, everyone's looking for you." Which means, where have you been? Now, when we kind of read this in 2020 eyes, we kind of go, "Yeah, that makes sense." Guys, it doesn't make sense. Jesus was experiencing the most outstanding ministry any pastor would ever want. I mean, think about this morning. You came here, which is awesome. Imagine if all of Wasatch County showed up here. Would there be a buzz? And imagine if all of Wasatch County came because they heard that Shane could whatever. And they were like, "Pastor Shane can whatever," so we're all coming, and they all showed up here. And then Shane was in the middle of teaching and casting out demons and healing people, and then he left. And you go, "Shane, Wasatch County is at the church. What on earth could be more important than what is happening in that building right now?" That's what we would all be saying. And Peter, he rebukes Jesus in a way which I never recommend. And he said, "Everyone is looking for you. Where have you gone?" And look what Jesus says, verse 38. Jesus replied, "Let us go somewhere else, to the nearby villages, so I can preach there also. That is why I have come." So he traveled throughout Galilee, preaching in the synagogue and driving out demons. See, Jesus was teaching his disciples, just the 4 right now, he was teaching them a really powerful lesson. He was showing them that when you start to change and impact people's lives, you're always going to be highly demanded of. And just because something is a good thing does not mean that it is exactly where God has called you to. And here's a principle that I think is just good to know as you start to follow Jesus. Following Jesus means you start to become more like Jesus. And as you start to become more like Jesus, you start to love like Jesus, you start to have compassion like Jesus, you start to forgive radically like Jesus. Here's the deal. People are going to gravitate towards you because you're not like everybody else. See, we live in a world where we don't love, we hate and divide. We don't have compassion, we have contempt. We don't have joy, we have complaints. And that's the world we live in. And when you start to become more like Jesus from spending time with Jesus, and you start to look at the world through his eyes, and you go, no. Forgive. No. Grace. No. Joy. People are going to be coming at you. And they're going to say, I don't know what it is, but I want them around me. And you're going to have more good things to do than you actually have the bandwidth to step into. And Jesus knew that his disciples were about to see some pretty amazing ministry. But just because something looks great and looks good doesn't mean that's where God was calling them. I really believe that as you start to look like Jesus, you're going to have more good opportunities than you're going to have the bandwidth. And Jesus, he doesn't just make a decision on the fly and say, you know what? Oh, gosh, I feel like God's calling us somewhere else. He went away. He went away and he sat at his Father's feet. And he said, God, this is awesome. It started. Father, do I stay here? And you know what he said to him? As awesome as what's happening there is, you need to move on. And here's what I want you to understand about this passage. When Jesus left, people were disappointed. People were left disappointed. People were standing there all night waiting to get healed by Jesus. And you know what he did? He left. And in our world, we say, your job is to make people happy, especially really good things. Your job is to do whatever it takes to make people happy. But you know, following Jesus sometimes means that you're going to follow God's voice, which is going to make people feel like you abandoned them sometimes. It's going to make them feel like you let them down. Jesus let people down that day. But imagine what would have happened if Jesus did not follow God's instruction. If he did not continue going and preaching the gospel, if he would have just hunkered down and said, this looks awesome, we're going to stay in Capernaum and start the Capernaum School of Demon Kicker-Outers. We wouldn't have our gospel. We wouldn't have Jesus' story. The second problem is this. An unhealthy pace will cost me my peace. An unhealthy pace will cost me my peace. Now, you can fill that in however you want. See, I wrote an unhealthy pace cost me my peace, but you might say, you might look back on your life and go, an unhealthy pace cost me my fill in the blank. Maybe an unhealthy pace in your life has cost you your marriage. Maybe an unhealthy pace is costing you your relationship with your kids. Maybe an unhealthy pace is costing you your physical health. But see, it's going to cost you something. One of the ways God got my attention through this was a number of years ago. I was visiting someone at the Wasatch County Jail. And if you've ever been to the Wasatch County Jail, you sit, there's a piece of, I don't know if it's plexiglass or glass, and you pick up a phone and you actually talk to him on the other side of the glass. And I remember I said, hey, how you doing? And he said, a lot of thinking in here, and it's tough. And I said, okay, I was trying to kind of like just break the ice. I said, so what are you doing with your time? And he said, well, they've got a decent library in here, and I'm on book 3 of this series, and it's helping keep my mind distracted. And I just read and I nap and I do push-ups. And I remember something was growing in me as I was talking to him. Jealousy. And I'm going, you get to read? You have time to read, and then you nap? And then you just do, you push-ups? I wouldn't do the push-ups part, but the reading and the napping. And I walked away from the jail, and I was getting in my car, and I was like, what's wrong with me right now? What's this building up? And I was like, I'm jealous of him. I am jealous of somebody who's incarcerated. God's getting my attention. When you start to be jealous of somebody who's incarcerated because they have time to read and nap, God's getting your attention. And see, God had been showing me that I was pursuing a life that was at 75 miles an hour, but I hadn't yet learned how to shift into 3rd gear, let alone 4th and 5th gear. And my engine, what's your engine do when you're going 75 miles an hour in 2nd gear? And that's what was happening to me. And God said, Mike, it's not that I don't have that kind of movement for you, but you have to learn how to trust and rest in me, because the pace you're going right now is not sustainable. To prove it, you're jealous of somebody in jail. If that doesn't get your attention, nothing will. I love what Dallas Willard says about this. The late Dallas Willard said, the key to spiritual growth is to ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. See, Dallas Willard recognized something that King David had always talked about, which is the pace that we choose for life is going to cost us something. And David recognized that peace is essential to growing in our relationship with God. Look what King David said in Psalm 131. He said, O Lord, my heart is not lifted up. My eyes are not raised too high. I do not occupy myself with things too great and too marvelous for me. Listen to this, though. But I have calmed and quieted my soul like a weaned child with its mother. Like a weaned child is my soul within me. If you're not a parent, you might not understand that word, but a weaned child is like a child who's being fed or was just fed. Is there anything on earth more at peace than a child who was just fed? The answer is no. And David says that, and you got to remember, this is King David who was chased, King David who blew it, King David who knew what it was like to have enemies. And King David said, I have learned not to focus my mind on things too mighty for me, but instead, I've learned to sit at the Lord's feet. And when he calms and quiets my soul, it's like I'm a weaned child. Folks, that's peace. And sometimes the pace of our life, it steals away our ability to have peace. When we don't have peace, it means our life is in conflict. It means there's always a battle. It means you finish one battle and you move directly into the next battle. And when we're in that battle, we're not hearing from God. We're not hearing what God's saying to us. So here's solution number one. In your notes, Christianity is not only believing what Jesus believed, but living the way Jesus lived. See, we can sometimes think that following Jesus means you agree to all the same things as Jesus. You know, like when you get baptized, they go, do you believe? And you go, uh-huh. They go, we're about to put you underwater. Are you sure you believe this? And you go, uh-huh. My family's here. I can't back out now. Okay? And sometimes Christianity can be this, we agree, we nod to God, and we say, yes, I agree, I agree with these things. But see, following Jesus is not just believing the same things, it's learning to live the way he lived. And Jesus had a rhythm of life. And if you read the Gospels, you can see Jesus challenging the rhythm of life that was going on back then because it's not something new. The hurried heart is not a new invention. And Jesus was challenging, even back then, the notion of how to live the life. And it doesn't mean that we all have to get rid of all economic or developments and get on robes and walk in sandals. That's not what Jesus is saying. But he's going to show us that the way we live, the rhythm in which we live life, is a rhythm where we partner with Jesus. Look what he says in Matthew 11. He says, come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Now, if you're like me, you've probably heard this passage many times. Anybody heard this passage before? Some of you have it on your walls, okay? I've heard this so many times that I had to take a step back and go, okay, did I forget what this means? Look what he says. He says, if you're burdened or if you are tired, come to me. And then he says, take my yoke upon you. Now, yoke is a work instrument. Yoke is what you would put on cattle so that you could plow through a field. Wouldn't it make more sense if he said, come to me, everybody who's tired and heavy laden, and I will give you a mattress. I will give you a 2-week vacation. Come to me, everybody who is tired, and I will give you a break. But you notice he doesn't say that. Look at the irony here. He says, come to me, and what I'm going to give you is I'm going to give you a yoke. But see, the other side of that yoke is going to be me. And see, Jesus isn't telling us you just need to learn how to take breaks better. He's telling us that we need a new way to carry life. Because the way in which we've been carrying life is burning us out. And he said, you need to learn a new way to carry life. So what I want you to do is I want you to walk alongside me. And I'm going to show you how we can be productive, how we can change the world, but how we can do it like I do it. This is a big deal. Because when we don't learn how to carry life the way Jesus carries life, the only thing we know how to do is carry life the same way that the world carries life. Our value comes from how many people can I keep happy? How much money can I make my boss? How much can I accomplish? And Jesus wants to show us how to carry life. And I know for me, some of my strongest, most passionate prayers for God were, God, I need you to make me stronger. I need you to give me more time. Remember that time you stopped the sun for Joshua? Let's do that one again. I need you to stop. I need you to give me more time. God, I need you to give me more money. God, I need you to give me more strength and wisdom. And though those aren't bad prayers, you know what God said to me? No. He said no. He said, you are carrying too much. What you're asking me for is you're asking for permission to carry more than I asked you to carry. You're asking for permission to make yourself responsible for things I never made you responsible for. You're asking for me to give you more money because you don't want to deal with what you're spending. You want me to give you more time because you don't want to deal with all the things on your calendar. You want me to give you more strength because you're picking up too many things. No. And you know, sometimes when God tells us no, it's one of the most beautifully answered prayers he could give us. Because he's saying, you are carrying too much on your own. Maybe it's time that you start to live the way I lived. You're believing the right things. But maybe it's time you start to live the way I live. Maybe it's time you don't carry as much as you used to. God gave us little gifts, little ways to help us reevaluate what we're carrying. One of the ways that we live the way Jesus lived is Jesus lived with margin. Not margarine, not rubber butter. Margin. Margin is room. That's all it means. It means room. All the way back from when God gave the Israelites commands on how to live as a community, and I know we're not Israelites, but the command is true. He said, even when you're harvesting your fields, don't harvest all of it. Leave the edges. Leave margin for people who are hungry and don't have food to come and pick at it. In our money, we leave margin in our money, which means we leave room so that we can be generous unexpectedly, or we can deal with things that are unexpected. We leave margin. We leave margin in our time so that we're not moving directly from one thing to another, where if one thing goes wrong on your calendar, the whole thing doesn't flop like dominoes. So he gave us margin. One of the greatest gifts he gave us, which isn't a gift, it's a command, is a Sabbath. We hate the word Sabbath. Because Sabbath means I'm not going to produce anything, intentionally not produce something today. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that you have to sit in your house and stare at the wall. It means that you do what makes you rest. But God recognized that the way he designed us, uniquely designed us, the same way that Ford designed the car, God designed us. And he said, this will malfunction, which is me. This will malfunction if I don't find time for a Sabbath. Now, I'm one of those, I don't really care when you Sabbath. My Sabbath is a Friday, Saturday-ish. But the deal is, stop producing. Stop producing and start trusting God to start producing what you had already done that week. See, God's a God who provides us with the ability to push pause and to stop. Now, some of you might be hearing this and you're going, Mike, I totally get that. But if you knew it was on my plate, if you knew who was all the people who were relying on me, if you knew my responsibilities, you'd know that I can't really apply this message, but thanks for teaching it. I'm important. And let me tell you, yes, you are. But maybe this is exactly what you need to hear. If Jesus was willing to walk away from people who are in need of healing and who are tormented by demons in order to get rest from his Father and direction from his Father, I don't think there's anybody else who is so important that they don't have to push pause once in a while. And here's the coolest part, and this is the last blank in your notes. By God's design, I will produce my best when it comes from my rest. See, the way that God designed it, he didn't say, slow down and then be less effective. He didn't say, stop and sit at my feet and then become lazy. He said that if you'd be willing to understand my pace, if you'd be willing to learn my way of living life, my pace of life, my rhythm of life, if you'd be willing to do that, you're going to see that what you're doing is actually going to be producing more than when you were crazy. If you're a parent, you know this. When it's crazy and your kids are screaming at you and you look at them and you go, they told me not to shake a baby. I get it now. I get why we don't shake babies. Because you're looking at a kid you want to shake. What do? Do you say, no, we need to deal with this right now? No, you go, I'm going to take a break. You're going to take a break. We're going to reconvene in about a half hour. Because you know that if I don't stop right now, I'm going to do something dumb. See, God knows that when we don't take time, when our whole life is the rush rather than the rest, even what we produce starts to get marred. And see, God says, if you'd be willing, I love this, to Israel, he said, if you'd be willing to stop on the seventh day, don't do anything, just rest, you're going to see more fruit come from the 6 days than if you would have worked 7. And folks, that's the rhythm that God has given us for life. When we're able to push pause, God's going to say, you're going to see, by trusting me with the rest, you're going to see more fruit come from the 6 days or from all of that previous rush. You're going to see more from that than if you just never stop. Because we were designed to rest. We were designed to push pause. And I don't know how this hits you. Maybe for you, you need margin. Maybe the only thing you're hearing is, yeah, I'm booked up solid. Money, time, emotions, energy, I'm booked. Maybe for you, you just need to trust God by saying no to something. Maybe you need to get on your knees and say, God, too many people rely on me. Who do I disappoint? And trust God with it. Maybe for you, you just know that you just need to, you live in a hurried style. Maybe you should intentionally practice the presence of God by stopping. For me, it started with, I have to do nothing in the morning. I need at least an hour to an hour and a half because it takes that long for the coffee to work before I say nice things to God. But for me, I had to learn how to, on a daily basis, I had to start learning the practice of stopping. Just stopping and not producing anything, not answering emails, nothing. See, you're going to apply this or you're not going to apply it in different ways. But if you feel like your life is nonstop rush, maybe this message is for you. Maybe this is something you need to hear. Let's pray. Father, I thank you. I thank you that you're a God who uniquely designed us for rest. You're a God who uniquely and intentionally designed us to stop, to push pause. And Father, I thank you of this account of your life where you let people down so that you could follow God's will. And I pray that we would learn how to trust you, even if it means letting people down. Father, we love you, we trust you, we ask this in your name. Amen.